let's start the webinar. So as we talk about wrapping up harvest and starting aging, there is a few topics that are very interesting for us. So we are going to talk about oxidation management, as managing oxygen is always an essential topic, but particularly when we talk about aging. Then the second point will be about stabilizing microbes. So we really want to protect our wine from microbial spoilage. We finish fermentation. Here we're talking about our end of alcoholic or end of malolactic. And so we need to really have stable wine and avoid spoilage with Brettanomyces or Acetobacter or any lactobacillus, for example, to protect and maintain the potential of our wine. The third point of this webinar today is going to be about talking about phenolic compound balance. That's a very important point, particularly this year, as we saw a little bit difficulties in the phenolic maturity with this vintage. So it's very important to talk about it anytime, but this year even more. We do want to reach a good balance to make sure the wine is has the potential and the resistance for aging. So this said, let's start with our first point, which is protecting and stabilizing wine from oxidation. So when we talk about this, of course, the first thing to do is to limit contact with oxygen and limit dissolved oxygen. So for this, you want to make sure you protect your wine. If you have a wine that is not completely, a tank that is not completely full or a barrel that is not completely full, make sure you try to top it or use inert gas or inert gas, CO2, anything that you can do to really blanket the top of the wine to avoid dissolved oxygen. And then when we are talking about transfer or movement with pump, make sure you use a proper pump, you connect it well, and you use inert gas as well to avoid all contact with oxygen and dissolved oxygen. The second point here that is interesting is to talk about using antioxidants. So at this point, we can use sulfur. We can use tannins such as Vinitan Advance, which is a grape tannin. Laura will talk more about this in the next session, so I will not develop too much. But it is a great antioxidant. And of course, something that has been traditionally used and still works very well is fine lees. So using your lees can be very dangerous, talking about microbial stability. So you do want to make sure you use clean lees that you're happy with, because if you use lees that you don't like or come from a dirty fermentation, fermentation that didn't finish well, or grapes that were not the most healthy, you take the risk of having contamination with microbes and also some reduction. So you want to use lees that are positive and good quality. So next thing that you can do for this point is to increase the wine oxidation resistance. So that's a very interesting concept where we actually work with a product called Aroma Protect, which is glutathione. We're going to talk more about this. This idea is really to increase the natural oxidation resistance of the wine. So the wine naturally has some resistance due to phenolic compounds and glutathione. So here we are taking the approach of glutathione, which is a great antioxidant. You can work on stabilizing redox potential. This means you make a wine stable, you buffer it to make sure your wine doesn't fall easily into reduction or oxidation. And then that's more for whites and rosé, but you can also remove precursor of oxidation. Here we're talking phenolic compounds, particularly the small phenolic compounds that are responsible of pinking or browning, that are the beginning of all the oxidation chain. And for this, we use fining agents, protein-based fining agents. So you can think about pea protein, you can think about casein, albumin, any gelatin, pea protein is great and showed very good result. So let's talk more about the Aroma Protect and then a little bit more about redox potential. So talking about increasing wine oxidation resistance, so glutathione is a natural antioxidant present in the grapes, so in the juice and then in the wine. The problem with glutathione is that usually we lose it through the very first step of the process. As soon as oxygen come in contact with the juice, we lose our glutathione as it is the first molecule reacting with the quinone. So the quinone is the first step of oxidation reaction. So as soon as you have a phenolic compound getting oxidized into a quinone, then glutathione will trap it and we be able to stop the reaction there. So very commonly, we don't have much glutathione left at the end of fermentation. And it's very interesting to think about adding it. It doesn't taste anything and it really helps you protecting your wine. How can you add it? You can only add it via yeast derivate. So yeast can produce glutathione. And so we at La Motabier can produce this yeast. And so this yeast derivate that are rich in sulfur peptide. Our Aroma Protect is very rich in glutathione. Within the sulfur peptide, you see more than half of it is glutathione, which means really you want to use it for the purpose of antioxidant and increasing the wine oxidation resistance. We recommend to add it at the end of fermentation, at the beginning of aging, so you really start with strong base, you're aging. And at this point, we do 10 to 30 grams per hectoliters, depending the wine and depending the length of aging. And then the second thing is every time you do a movement, so if you do a racking or if you do a filtration or bottling, we would recommend you to add probably 5 grams per hectoliters just to protect during this transition or this pump or, physical treatment. And if you do it pre-bottling, it also help you to elongate the wine shelf life. It's also a great tool to use when you have a wine that you have to keep for a long time in tank and you don't want to increase too much your sulfur. So this can be a very good tool for example, wine that you bottle in few steps. So the first tank is great, but then, 6 months after, you need to do another bottling of the same wine. It's actually a good idea to put Aroma Protect in this tank to protect it and not increase too much the sulfur. Or for sparkling wine, when you're waiting to do the tirage, it is a good idea to think about Aroma Protect so you don't increase your sulfur. Some trial results here. Let me move this thing here. So you can see, so here we have a wine, a post-fermentation that we have the control and the Aroma Protect, same wine, same aromas. 3 months after, this is a Sauvignon aged in tank. 3 months after, you can see that the control lost most of its thiolic compounds, so 76 to 100%, depending the compounds we're looking for. While the wine with Aroma Protect lost only from 0 to 4% of the thiols, so big protection here with the Aroma Protect. Then another trial, another wine, still looking at the thiolic compound. We're looking at the loss of aromatic compound here. And you can see that the control loss after 6 months of aging in tank, again, 55 to 75% of its thiolic compound, while the Aroma Protect lost 20 to 30. Of course, we lost some, but nothing compared to the control. So we really had a true protection against oxidation that helped maintaining the wine profile fresh and as it was before. So we elongate the shelf life of the wine. The other point we wanted to talk about was really about the redox potential. So that's a pretty complex topic, I would say, with a lot of different ideas. But basically, you can imagine that each wine has its own redox potential, but this will help you understand if the wine is more sensitive to reduction or oxidation. The idea here is to buffer the wine, so to make this redox potential more stable. and to make the wine less sensitive to oxidation or reduction, no matter what is the initial redox potential of the wine. So working with this, it actually goes together with scavenging oxygen radicals. So we wanted to work with some tannins here. Here there is a study of oxygen consumption rate in function of the tannin used, just to understand which type of tannins works better for this goal. And as you can see in the study, the oak tannins are the most efficient in terms of scavenging oxygen radical, but there is a big variety depending which oak tannin we're talking about. So oak tannins are the most reactive with oxygen radicals, and they are also the best as buffering redox potential. Then when we did the same study with our product, we ended up with the same type of result, while when the gallic tannins are the least efficient, and the oak tannins, our two oak tannins, are the most efficient in scavenging oxygen radical and buffering redox potential. We have two tannins for this, Tannessence forte, which is a toasted oak tannin, and a Tannessence volume, which is an untoasted oak tannin. We usually recommend to use the Tannessence volume when we're talking buffering redox potential and scavenging oxygen radical, because even though it's not as efficient as the Tannessence forte, it is way more soft in the palate and neutral on aromas. So the Tannessence forte has a strong impact on the structure of the wine, and you don't want to use too much. So Tannessence volume for this will do a great job at helping your redox potential, scavenging oxygen radical. So we recommend to add it at any transfer, any movement, any racking, 0.5 to 1 gram per hectoliters. White, red, or rosé would be the same. And when we talked about Aroma Protect before, was the same, white, red, or rosé, or sparkling. Okay, so that was for the oxygen management, two great tools that you can use from the beginning of aging to all the way through bottling. We always recommend to use it as early as possible, particularly that they really help to stabilize your wine. They are more proactive tools than curative tools. So, and also the dosage will be way lower if you are in proactive way. Now, talking about microbial management, that's a big topic too. So here we are gonna see really like what is the best tool we have in winemaking for winemakers, so for you to stabilize your wine towards microbes. It is very important to talk about this because so right now, end of fermentation, the microbes at risk are Acetobacter, Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, and Brettanomyces. We are in an environment where there is still a little bit of sugar sometimes. There is malic acid if you didn't do the malo. There is citric acid. There is some assimilable nitrogen due to later add or to a struggling end of fermentation or just to the lees that you are aging on. There is some dissolved oxygen sometimes, but if you do a good job with protecting from DO with inert gas and using Aroma Protect and Tannessence volume, not too much, which would really help managing the microbe too. Then temperature right now is actually not a problem, but often what happens is people are not worried about microbes right now post-fermentation because the temperature is low, but so nothing is done proactively. And as soon as March, April comes, temperature are rising, and then we are having in a week a huge contamination, microbial contamination that we can't really get under control. So it is very important to be proactive and basically remove the microbes during these steps that they don't develop so well, so you don't have problem later when the temperature gets higher. Consequences of microbial contamination are production of acetic acid, acetaldehyde, ethyl acetate, volatile phenol, bread taint, lactic taint, biogenic amines, and these are only some examples, but basically you spoil your wine and it can be all the way to undrinkable. You can also lose your barrels or your, any big wood tank that would be very difficult to clean. So it has a very strong impact in terms of quality, but also economically speaking. So what can we do to control microbes during aging? There is sulfur, well known from everybody. Sulfur is a great tool, but not always efficient, as you will see later. And also not very trendy right now. A lot of people are trying to reduce sulfur in their wine due to consumer demand. Lysozyme is a protein coming from egg white. Lysozyme works great against lactic acid bacteria, so Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, and Ococcus. Not so much against Acetobacter or yeast, so not a very wide action. As a protein, it requires more bentonite in whites and rosé to be stabilized regarding protein. And it does react with color on red, resulting in a loss of color. So lysozyme is a good tool, I would say an ancient tool almost, that now we can do better. So it's actually getting less and less used due to its side effect and also its cost. And what replaced actually lysozyme and sulfur in the newer section, but I would say it's now 10 years that we can use it in US at least, but even more in Europe. Chitosan. So chitosan, we're going to talk more about this, but chitosan is a polysaccharide that is vegan, allergen-free. It's a fining agent that it doesn't stay in the wine, and it interacts with a very broad spectrum of microbes, which includes all the ones we are worried about in winemaking during aging. DMDC, that's not for aging, that's really pre-bottling and it's for yeast. And sorbate, same story, it's not for aging, it's pre-bottling and it's for yeast. So truly, during aging, you have three tools: sulfur, lysozyme, chitosan. Lysozyme is not the most efficient. Sulfur is not as efficient as we wish it was. So we are left with chitosan, which we are going to talk a little bit more. So chitosan is an antimicrobial agent. It is a polysaccharide that is derived from Aspergillus niger. It's actually a polysaccharide that is, so there is a polysaccharide derived from Aspergillus niger, which is a ketene glucan that then is treated to become chitosan. So chitosan and ketene glucan are two different things. Same type of molecule to start with, but then we treat the ketene glucan to do some, to cut the chain. In fact, the chain is shorter and way more charged in the chitosan. So we have a lot of positive charge in the molecule of chitosan, which is how the chitosan is going to work. It is vegan, allergen-free, biodegradable, and it is not soluble in wine, so it is a fining agent. So it's going to settle. Basically, it's going to catch all the microbes, settle down, and you will rack it off if you do a treatment. It has a wide spectrum antimicrobial activity. How it works, basically there is a charge attraction. So I told you, chitosan is a positive molecule, and most of the microbes have a negatively charged residue on their cell walls. And so as a magnet, they get attracted. As any fining agent, it starts with a charge attraction. So you can see on this picture here, there is a bunch of Brettanomyces here that are trapped into the chitosan. The second step, once the chitosan trap it, it's actually gonna basically embrace the cell, completely cover it and stop the metabolism of the cell. The cell of the microbe cannot communicate with outside, so cannot adjust its internal pH, cannot take nutrients, cannot produce any molecule that are sent out, such as volatile phenol when we are talking about Brett. So there is an alteration of the cell metabolism. And then the next step is that there is a perforation of the cytoplasmic of the membrane. So the as you can see here, the cell before treatment and the cell after treatment is empty, is leaking and is actually dead. So here how it works, you can see Brettanomyces cells are here. We put chitosan 1 day after, they start to actually deteriorate and leak. 4 days after, there is no membrane anymore and the cell is completely decomposed. 8 days after, there is no more cells. Okay, so chitosan completely killed them. And the next step is the settling. So it's basically the hug of death, like the chitosan is hugging the cells and completely stopping any communication, any metabolism, perforating the cytoplasmic membrane, and then settling everything. Very efficient against lactic acid bacteria, so Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, Enococcus, Acetobacter, and Brettanomyces. At La Motabier, we took the choice to work with 100% chitosan. So our formulation is called Kilbret, and it is a pure chitosan product. So this choice was made to have a very efficient treatment at low dosage, so we can limit the organoleptic impact on the wine. If you go very high in dosage, you're going to start to have the effect of the fining and lose a little bit of phenolic compounds or have a little impact. With Kilbret, you will not. How we use it? We always recommend to use it as preventive. So use it post-fermentation before you could imagine there is a problem. So even if you don't see any cell development, because your wine is clean, because the temperature is low, because you don't have dissolved oxygen, it's always very interesting to put 4 grams per hectoliter. So we really are talking low dosage. And in this case, you leave it in. You don't need a racking because it's just going to kill whatever is there. It's going to settle and it's going to stay in. What we recommend is another addition of Kilbret when the temperature are rising. So usually about 4 months after. We do another 4 grams per hectoliter just to protect the wine through its life of aging. And every 4 months, we recommend to add a little bit more chitosan or Kilbret. Then let's say you do have a contamination, you didn't do the preventive, or you just did, but you have a contamination from a stack fermentation. For example, you can go curative treatment. In this case, we go to 8 grams per hectoliters. We wait few days to have the Kilbret settling down with the cells. We recommend to do a racking because there is nothing good to get in aging your wine in a cemetery of dead spallage microbes. So we recommend to do a racking and then to clean the barrel if you were in barrel, and then to add 2 more grams per hectoliters for protection. Okay, so preventive treatment, post-fermentation, just 4 grams per hectoliters. It's going to protect your wine during all its life of aging. Curative treatment, you have a problem, you put 8 grams per hectoliters, you let it settle, you rack it, and you add 2 more grams per hectoliters just to protect. Let's see some results, trial results where we compare the Kilbret with sulfur, which is the most used antimicrobial agent. Here, Brettanomyces, sulfur versus Kilbret during aging. We can see that sulfur didn't do much about the cells. There is still Brettanomyces cells, and there is a production of volatile phenol. You can see the little orange dot is 4EP4EG, while the addition of Kilbret with no sulfur, this is with 0 sulfur. So Kilbret alone at 4 grams per hectoliters completely killed, removed all the population of Brettanomyces, and we are having lower 4EP4EG due a little bit to the fining of the Kilbret, but also due to the fact that there is no more cells, so no more production. Metabolism is closed. On lactic acid bacteria, we are comparing 30 milligrams per liter of free sulfur of aging versus no sulfur 4 grams per hectoliters of Kilbret. And you can see this is barrel aging Pinot Noir. And you can see that basically sulfur or no sulfur and Kilbret have the same effect on lactic acid bacteria, that they are completely reducing. And this is from March to June. Then on acetic acid bacteria, this is a little bit more complex. We actually from March to June saw that we were having no matter Kilbreth or sulfur, we still had a little increase, even though we start lower with the Kilbreth because it was a bit more efficient on acetic acid bacteria. Here we realized that in fact we had some oxygen pickup. So we added the tan essence volume and the aroma protect to reduce the buffer, to reduce the redox potential, to reduce the dissolved oxygen, to scavenge oxygen radicals, which acetic acid bacteria love. And in this case, we remove basically the food for acetic acid bacteria, which allow us to control the population. With sulfur, this was not enough, and they went back in a higher population, while with Kilbreth, this was enough. Kilbreth and tan essence volume and aroma protect were enough to control acetic acid bacteria. Now, so we can think, okay, sulfur and Kilbreth are actually almost similar. Kilbreth a little bit more efficient than sulfur, but there is also side effects about sulfur that we wanted to show. So here we are not looking at microbes, but we're looking at other impacts that aging can have, such as the color. So again, we are looking at 2 wineries, big trials that we did on Pinot Noir. This was 30 milligram per liter of free sulfur versus 0 sulfur versus 0 sulfur and 4 grams per hectoliter of Kilbreth. What we saw during all this aging is that basically the sulfur bleach, we all know this, but the bleaching effect of the sulfur is not so reversible, and we lost a lot of color when we use sulfur. When we don't use sulfur, we still lose color, and we're actually having a lot of yellow due to the oxidation. And with the Kilbreth, we maintain a color that is red, vibrant, not oxidized, and so we didn't bleach, we didn't lose color. So here is the intensity of the color. As you can see, the yellow is a Kilbreth, the yellow line. The blue line is the 0 sulfur, and the red line all the way down is the one with sulfur. So very low color intensity with the sulfur. So during aging, basically with 0 sulfur, we lost 10% of our color. With sulfur, we lost 25% of our color, and with Kilbreth, we lost only 5% of our color. And how is this color is shared? It's basically that with the 0 sulfur, we lost mostly red, and we lost some red, but we gain a lot of yellow. With sulfur, we lost more red and we gained some yellow. And with Kilbreth, we actually gain red, mostly because we didn't bleach and we had the polymerization and the stabilization of the color, and we gain very little yellow, as you can see. So conclusion here is that Kilbreth is more efficient than sulfur in terms of microbial control, and is way more positive when we are talking at least red wine and color. We are having a way better aging potential as we are not bleaching any color and we are not binding with any phenolic compounds. Which on this, I'm actually opening on the new topic for our presentation and talking about aging and preparing for aging, which is management of the phenolic compounds. I'm gonna let Laura keep going with the presentation now.
Yes, I'm very sorry you can't see my face. I tried everything. Well, it's going to be for the next webinar. Eglantine, do you want me to share my presentation, or you're gonna...
Yes, if you can, I'm gonna stop sharing and let you keep going.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. And yeah, you are good.
Perfect. So we wanted to talk about this subject on how to prepare your wine for aging. Also regarding to this harvest, we've seen a lot of different phenolic compounds balance. The 2024 vintage has its own challenges, especially around phenolic maturity. We have seen some full phenolic ripeness, but also phenolic ripeness that wasn't reached. We also saw some examples of unbalanced phenolic compounds, such as red wine with green tannins or lack of phenolic maturity, some desiccated clusters with overripe aromas but green tannins, or insufficient structure on some light skin grape variety, for example. So phenolic compounds are playing a huge role in aging capacity. So aging capacity can be described as three parameters. That is the color intensity and stability. So it ensures the wine to have a stable color, no browning, and no precipitation on color during aging or in bottle. So the stability comes mainly from well polymerized anthocyanins with tannins. Redox reactivity. So when we talk about redox, we talk about protection against oxidation, but also reduction. So it's phenolic compounds are natural antioxidants. They scavenge oxygen and prevent oxidation. So that's very important. We talked about this subject with Eglantine, about the use of untoasted oak tannin. They are the most reactive with oxygen. And of course, when we talk about aging capacity, we also talk about mouthfeel and complexity, because the more mouthfeel and structure and tannins, the more at the end of aging you will have a nice complexity and harmony of texture. So rebalancing the phenolic profile is going to be a big focus for us during this presentation, to improve the aging potential of the wine, and then building structure to ensure the wine evolve in the way we want it to. So first, let's focus on color and aging potential. So natural or added tannins, they play a big role in enhancing the color intensity. So we have two types of tannins that can be beneficial for color stability. They are the grape tannins, because they form an anthocyanin and ethanol and tannin complex. So the grape tannins are located in the skin or in the seeds. They are proanthocyanidins. So they help mitigate color loss, and they promote long-lasting colors. And also, grape tannins can have a good antioxidative action to preserve wine aromatics and prevent against browning. Same with the oak tannins. They scavenge oxygen radicals, as we saw with eglantine. So they are antioxidant, but they also contribute to structure and mouthfeel, as we see, for example, with barrel aging. So here is a very interesting graph. So comparing the tan excellence with a control. So tan excellence is a mix of grape tannins and French oak tannins. We selected this tannin because it's the most versatile. So as you see, on a treated wine, so same wine, Cabernet Sauvignon, one was treated with 10 grams per hectoliters of the tan excellence, and the other one is just the same wine without the tan excellence. And we see that 1 month after bottling, the control already lost a lot of color intensity. so 21%. So basically, during aging and even after in bottle, your wine will be more colorful, will have more red shades. So it's very important. So the wine is actually not evolving. So we suggest using the 10 excellence if you have a lower phenolic potential or unbalanced tannins, where you see that you already have a light color or you need to add more structure. So you can add that at the end of the fermentation or during the maturation. Always good to do a trial before, so you can taste the wine, even though it's going to polymerize over the time. So 5 to 20 grams per hectoliters, or pre-bottling 5 to 15 grams. Then now let's talk about how to play with the mouthfeel, the structure, and make sure your wine is ready to be aged. If it's in barrel or in tanks, or if it's going to be bottled soon. Sometimes the wines can be a little bit too astringent. So on this graph, we see the difference of SPI. So the SPI is the salivary protein index. It basically measures the reactivity with salivary protein. So when we taste wine, it measures how astringent the wine is. So the higher the number, the more astringent the wine. So on this graph, we have three different same wine. The orange one is the control red wine. The second one is treated with 5 grams or 10 grams of Vinitan Advance, which is a pure grape tannin. So it's very interesting because sometimes adding more tannins to a highly tannic wine will actually lower the astringency due to the polymerization of tannins, which actually soften them. So the more you are adding this tannin, the grape tannin called Vinitan Advance, the less your wine will be astringent over the time. So Vinitan Advance is a qualitative tannins from grape skin. It has a high concentration in oligomers. These are smaller tannin structure. It integrates very well in the wine's phenolic matrix. It has low acid phenol content, which means that it's also reducing the bitterness and harshness, and also avoid the production of volatile phenols. Very important. So what it does is that grape tannins promote high polymerization potential after about 1 month of use. So from 1 month after using this tannin on your wine, you'll see that your wine will be softer, brighter, with a nice mid palate. So it's basically fill the mid palate. We've seen some amazing results on Pinot Noir, for example, where sometimes the Pinot Noir were lacking some structure and mouthfeel, and the aromas were a little overripe. So adding this also boosted the red fruit. So it's also a very nice tool to reboost the aromas of your wine. So it's really enhance the red fruit in the wine. So same application, you can add 5 grams per hectoliters, for example, at pressing or during aging. It's possible to add it just before bottling. We have some samples for you to taste it and try it. So adding this early in the process, early in the aging, will help you to develop a wine with more grape tannins, more natural, let's say, tannins, and a better mouthfeel. So in this slide, I wanted to gather some of the challenges that we can address and some solutions presented here. So I didn't talk about the tannin sense volume, but as Eglantine said, So it's a 100% untoasted oak tannin. It's an excellent tool for balancing redox potential and preventing oxidation. So first, let's say if you have rough tannins, unbalanced phenolic maturity, let's say more astringency, some green tannins, then the Vinitan Advance will help to soften the rough tannins and get a better softness in your red wine. For color improvements and stabilization, and also global aging capacity, 10 excellence will be a little bit more versatile, and Vinitan Advance is also a good option. For overall structure, the three different types of tannins, so the grape tannins, the oak tannins are good solutions. It really depends on your wine and how you like it, how you like the different, tannins. And for pure oxidation protection and to buffer redox potential, Tan Excellence and Tan Essence Volume works very well. Just a little tip, if you smell some reduction, 1 or 2 or up to 5 grams per hectoliters of the Tan Essence Volume will help to rebalance the redox potential and remove this reduction. So it can be also very nice tool. So to summarize what we've been talking about with Eglantine, this is your toolbox for aging. So the three main subjects are to prevent your wine from microbial spoilage, to preserve it from oxidation, and to stabilize its color and prepare for aging. So this will help to not impact your wine and keep your wine as good as you want it to be. So first you can use the Kilbret, which is a natural product, ketosane. You can use as a preventative or curative action. Works very well, doesn't impact the color and doesn't impact the taste of your wine. We also provide SO2 tablets. It's just a very, very easy to use product with a precise dosage. You just have to, it's a no-brainer. You just have to add the effervescent tablets in your barrel and you're done. Aroma Protect to elongate the shelf life of your wines, of your aromas, keep the freshness you like and the aromas. Very good to protect against oxidation and for transfer, for example. Tan Essence Volume, same concept to prevent oxidation or reduction. You can also use it at every movement or racking. Tan Excellence, which does both of oxidation protection and color stability, and then the Vinitan Advance for color stability, lifting the red fruit and more mouthfeel. So that's the different tools we can propose you. Of course, if you want us to taste your wines, feel free to contact us. We have sales rep locally in the different regions in Oregon, Washington, South California, and Napa Sonoma. I will be happy to come by and pick up some samples or taste with you. We do have some kits. If you want us to send you some tannins kits, I'm very happy to send them to you. And I hope all your wines are fabulous and you have everything you need to make them even better.